Young men are waking up, and what they're seeing is quite ugly. They see a culture that denigrates masculinity. They see the lies of feminism before their eyes. Women who've been told their whole lives that marriage is a trap, that children are a burden, and that men are basically optional. They see a family court system in places like Canada that will take your kids away from you and destroy your life because you refuse to allow your kids so called gender affirming care. They see the disastrous consequences of the sexual revolution, endless abortions and promiscuity amongst men and women alike. Andrew Tate, Rich Cooper, Fresh and Fit, the Whatever Podcast Bros, Clavicular. Part of the reason these guys are famous is that they tell young men a lot of the harsh truths that no one else is willing to say. That feminism turned women from soft, nurturing creatures into ambitious, masculine girl bosses, chasing paychecks and body counts. That hypergamy is real, that the courts are rigged, that no-fault divorce means your wife can walk away with half your assets, full custody of your children, and you get to pay for the privilege of being discarded. All of that is true to an extent. But here's where these guys go wrong, and where they're leading an entire generation of men off a cliff. Their solution to this problem is not a solution at all. Don't get married, stay single, spin plates, have sex with as many women as possible, and never commit, is their pitch to young men. But that is not a blueprint for a fulfilling life. It's a recipe for despair. Today, I'm going to make a case in defense of traditional marriage, notwithstanding all the risks associated with marriage in the West today, which I fully acknowledge and will discuss. The reality has always been the same, that marriage and the family built Western civilization, and abandoning them doesn't fix the problem, it only accelerates it. The answer to our sick culture isn't more isolation. It's more young, strong, and thriving marriages. Let me explain. First, let's talk about what the Manosphere gets right. We need to give credit where credit is due. Whatever you think of these red pill Manosphere guys, they aren't crazy. They're essentially holding up a mirror to the societal issues that have plagued our society for the last 60 years. Feminism has reshaped women, and not for the better. For much of human history up until recently, women understood their power came from femininity, from nurturing, from beauty, from building homes and raising children. Feminism told them that was oppression. It told them to compete with men, not complement them. It told them that the boardroom was more important than the nursery. And now we have an entire generation of women in their 30s with advanced degrees, six-figure debt, a cat, a Netflix subscription, and a profound loneliness they'll never admit to. Hypergamy, the female instinct to date up in status and resources, was always real and there. But feminism removed every check society had placed on it. Now every woman feels entitled to men who are at least 6 foot, richer, etc., while offering very little in return. The family court system is a nightmare. No-fault divorce, introduced in California in 1969 and spread nationwide by the 1980s, was supposed to make divorce less adversarial. Instead, it made it effortless. Women initiate roughly 70% of divorces. Men lose custody in the vast majority of cases. They're the custodial parent only about 20% of the time. Assets get split. Child support flows one way, and alimony keeps flowing even when she remarries. You can be a devoted father who never missed a soccer game, and a judge can still decide you're unfit because your ex-wife told a convincing story. The sexual marketplace is absolutely brutal. Apps like Tinder and Hinge turned dating into a transactional meat market. Women have infinite options, while average men have almost none. You know the famous stat, the top 10% of men get about 80% of the attention. The rest get scraps. Dudes have sent 100 messages and they've gotten 3 replies. They've been ghosted, used for free meals, and discarded for the next guy in our DMs. These problems are real. Pretending otherwise is pure cope. But what the red pill guys are prescribing is far from the cure. It's suicide. To understand why these guys are wrong, let's discuss the model of marriage that built our civilization. Marriage isn't a social construct invented by dead white guys to control women. It's older than the nation state, it's older than Christianity, it's woven into the fabric of reality itself. At creation, God said it is not good for the man to be alone. God himself declares the single life incomplete for most men. Not optional, not inferior, not good. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's ontological. We were designed for covenant relationships. The Manosphere's ideal man, this lone wolf spinning plates answering to no one, is not a higher form of masculinity. It's a cope for men who've been burned and are too afraid to try again. Genesis 2:24, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. This is the blueprint. Not casual sex, not situationships, not spinning plates. One man, one woman, one flesh for life. The Hebrew word for hold fast is davak, which means to cling, to adhere, to stick like glue. This is not a contract you can cancel when you get bored. It's a sacred covenant. Marriage isn't easy, and the Bible never pretends it is. It calls it sanctifying, sacrificial, and serious. Husbands are commanded to love their wives as Christ loved the church, which means dying to yourself daily. Wives, on the other hand, are commanded to respect and submit to their husbands, not as slaves, not as slaves, but as partners in a divinely ordered hierarchy. It is also not a 50-50 business arrangement. It is two becoming one flesh. And for millennia, this model built the West. Strong families produced strong men who defended borders, built cathedrals, invented technologies, and passed on virtue. Every great civilization rose on the backbone of married households, raising the next generation. When marriage weakens, civilizations fall. Greece fell partly when men stopped marrying and started pursuing pleasure. We're watching the same movie in real time, and the Manosphere is telling you to stay in the theater. The Manosphere loves data when it comes to exposing female hypocrisy and the lies of feminism. But let's look at what the data actually says in its fullness about marriage. First, the obvious fact, which is that marriage is collapsing, and so is everything that depends on it. Married couple households now make up only 47% of U.S. households. 50 years ago, it was 66%. The marriage rate has fallen to historic lows. Young people are marrying later than ever. First-time grooms average over 30 years old. Women are delaying marriage until after their fertility window has started closing. The fertility crash is directly tied to this. Married women still have birth rates more than doubled those of unmarried women. The entire drop in America's birth rate, we're now below replacement level, by the way, is explained almost entirely by fewer people getting married in their prime childbearing years. We're not replacing ourselves because we stopped forming families. And here's the part the Manosphere guys conveniently ignore. Married men are dramatically happier. Among young adults aged 22 to 35, married men are more than twice as likely to report being very happy as unmarried men. Married fathers especially thrive. Nearly 60% say their lives feel meaningful most of the time, compared to only 38% of single, childless men. Single men aren't living some liberated alpha lifestyle like the Manosphere sells it. They're more likely to be depressed, directionless, and addicted to porn, video games, or alcohol. The high body count strategy doesn't deliver long-term fulfillment. It delivers diminishing returns and deeper emptiness. Every man who's been through the casual sex carousel knows this. The first time it feels like winning, the fifth time it feels like nothing, the 10th time you're just going through emotions, wondering why you feel more alone after sex than before. The Manosphere sells the fantasy that opting out protects you. The data shows it leaves you more isolated, unfulfilled, and part of a dying demographic. Next, let's break down exactly why the Manosphere solution is worse than the actual problem. I'm going to walk you through 3 fatal flaws in this never marry lie the Manosphere tries to sell to young men. And the first flaw is that it destroys male purpose. The Manosphere talks endlessly about mission and frame, but nothing forges discipline, sacrifice, and long-term vision like being responsible for a wife and children. When you have to provide for and protect your family, you live for something greater than yourself. You wake up at 6 a.m. not because you're motivated, but because people depend on you. You grind through setbacks because failure isn't just your problem, it's also theirs. Without that, the hustle becomes hollow. Money, cars, and plates of women become just more distractions from the void. I've seen wealthy single men in their 40s with everything the Manosphere says to want, and they're some of the emptiest people I've ever met. They have no legacy, no one to pass their knowledge to, no one who will cry at their funeral because their life actually mattered. Second, it accelerates civilizational collapse. Birth rates keep plunging, economies strain under aging populations. The welfare state in this country, which is already bloated and broken, collapses under the weight of fewer workers supporting more retirees. Civilizations that stop producing don't evolve, they dissolve. They get replaced by people who still believe in family, often immigrants from traditional cultures in third world countries who will outbreed the native population in 2 generations. And third, and most important, it leaves men alone. The quiet epidemic of male loneliness isn't solved by more casual sex. It's worsened by it. Men who never commit, never experience the deep companionship, the shared struggles, or the legacy that only a covenant marriage can provide. They trade temporary pleasure for permanent solitude. You see older dudes who follow this never marry playbook. At 55, the casual sex dries up, and the friends all got married and drifted away. Their body starts breaking down. There's no one to drive them to the doctor. They sit in an empty apartment with their memories of women who used them, and they realize too late that they got played. The Manosphere correctly identifies that modern marriage carries a lot of risks, and so it does. But their answer, which is total withdrawal, guarantees the very weakness they claim to hate. A generation of checked out single men isn't rebelling against feminism, okay? It's surrendering the future to it. Now, what exactly is the solution to this problem? The solution is more strong, young, and covenant marriages. Divorce is not inevitable. Okay, there is a proven way to living a fulfilling life and minimizing your chances of ending up in family court. Step 1 is to vet ruthlessly. Don't marry the first woman who smiles at you, okay? Seek a woman who rejects the girl boss script, one who values femininity, not as weakness but as power, one who understands that submission to a worthy man is not oppression but freedom, one who wants to build a home, not a resume. They exist, they're just not on Tinder, and they're not at the club on Saturday night. Look in churches, look in traditional communities. Look among women who were raised by fathers who actually love them. Step 2 is to become a man who's worth marrying. You cannot demand a traditional wife if you're a fat slob who sits on the couch all day and plays video games in your mom's basement, okay? Work hard, stack resources, develop a mission, get fit, learn skills, lead, become the kind of man a good woman would want to submit to. The Manosphere is right, the women are hypergamous. Use that, become the man they're looking for. Step 3 is to get married young. Don't wait until you're 35 with a 401k and a sports car, alright? Your testosterone is highest in your 20s. Her fertility is highest in her 20s. Build your life together instead of building it alone and then trying to graft someone in later. The strongest marriages I personally have seen are when both parties were young, broke, and hungry. They grew together, they struggled together, they became one flesh through shared effort. Step 4, you're a citizen. Fight for legal reforms, okay? Yes, no-fault divorce is a disaster. Yes, the courts are biased and rigged against men. But the answer isn't to abandon marriage entirely. We can help fix the laws. We can vote to end no-fault divorce as the default. We can vote to restore fault-based standards. We can vote to reform custody to favor fit parents, regardless of gender. To push back against the cultural lies that poison the dating pool. The Manosphere has helped to identify the problem. Now we have to fight it instead of running from it. Step 5 is to build a counterculture. Surround yourself with other young married couples. Form communities where marriage is honored, children are celebrated, and fathers are respected. The left capture the institutions. Let them have the universities and the media, okay? We'll build our churches, the co-ops, the networks, and the neighborhoods where the traditional family thrives. They cannot stop us if we refuse to play their game on their field. We must conclude. The Manosphere diagnosed the poison correctly, as I've stated abundantly. Feminism broke the family. Courts betrayed men. Modern women were lied to. But their prescription, remaining single or not getting married at all, is the wrong antidote. It doesn't mend the wound, it worsens it. Real strength isn't avoiding commitment because the system is broken. Real strength is rebuilding the system by committing anyway to a worthy woman, to children, to a legacy that outlasts you. The truth is, civilization wasn't built by lone wolves spinning plates, okay? It was built by husbands and fathers who held fast to their wives and became one flesh. Every cathedral, every constitution, every great work of art and science that came from men who had something to fight for, men who came home to a wife and beautiful children who believed in them, men who taught their sons to be strong, and their daughters to be virtuous. I think the silent majority of young men still sense this truth in their bones. They're tired of the black pill despair. They see their peers waste their prime years on meaningless hookups and empty hustle culture. They want something profound and real. Friends, the truth is, marriage is worth it. The family is worth fighting for. And the future belongs to men brave enough to build it. So, ignore the manosphere's cowardice, get married. Alright? Have children, build a legacy, and prove to the world that the old ways and truths of our grandparents are not dead. They're just waiting for men strong enough to lift them. And with that, thank you for listening and watching, and God bless you.